Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are strapping ourselves in for what feels like a real masterclass.
Hmm.
We're looking deep into the leadership, the career philosophy of, well, one of modern football's most successful, certainly most charismatic managers,
Hmm.
pulling lessons not just from the wins, but from, some really candid reflections.
Yeah, and what's great here, I think, is that even though it's all rooted in elite sports,
Mm-hmm.
the stadiums, the trophies, that whole world, the actual principles, they're completely transferable.
Right.
We're talking about getting actionable lessons on, say, building a culture, psychological management, how you sustain performance when the pressure is just immense, and maybe most importantly, how you get a team to that point where they'll genuinely, as he put it, walk through fire for each other.
Absolutely. So our mission today is pretty clear. Let's analyze how this manager's really personal, sometimes quite difficult, history shapes such a unique leadership style. We really need to get under the skin of that difference between just being consistent as a leader and offering that truly tailored, bespoke management, and how he built that culture, that thing that made people give everything day in, day out for years.
Okay, so let's unpack this blueprint of belief, starting right back at the beginning, because
Yeah.
the sources really paint a picture of quite a dichotomy in his upbringing. It almost sounds like the perfect storm for creating someone passionate, but also incredibly demanding.
It really was a fascinating mix, extremes almost. You had his mother on one side described as just pure love, nurturing. Her only purpose was her kids, he said.
Hmm.
And that's where he says his basic love for people comes from, that loyalty he shows.
But then the other side of the coin is the father, the ambition, the expectations, this like constant unspoken pressure that never let up.
Yeah, he talks about how his dad never let him win. Races, games, anything, he had to earn it. Always.
Wow.
And he even admits feeling, absolutely useless sometimes as a young player because others were technically better, which is incredible given his career.
Right. But that feeling, that sense of maybe not being good enough skill-wise, that actually became the engine. He felt he had to compensate by being a warrior on the pitch, just
Yeah.
pure effort to keep up.
So that feeling of inadequacy kind of pushed him.
Exactly. Pushed him towards self-mastery, he could say. He's quite clear that demanding background made me the guy I am today.
It's a huge lesson right there, isn't it? Sometimes those early struggles forge the resilience you need later.
It really is. But here's where it gets even more interesting for me. That famous discipline. It wasn't entirely built at home, was it? It seems like it was really hammered into him later.
Yeah, at a specific point, age 20, 1988, became a father. And he said it was instant boom, had to be an adult now.
And that forced a massive shift.
Total pivot, yeah. Suddenly he's playing semi-pro, third division, really low wages. But he's also holding down two other manual jobs, one in the morning, one at night.
Wow, that's intense. Non-negotiable intensity. He had
Right.
no choice. He had to find that discipline, that structure he maybe hadn't fully grasped before,
Yeah.
just to survive and provide.
And underpinning all that drive, there was something else mentioned. A financial motivation.
Oh, definitely. He talks about remembering constant arguments about money when he was a kid, really bitter discussions.
Right.
And that left this deep-seated desire, almost visceral, to earn a lot of money, specifically. So he wouldn't have those same kinds of arguments with his own wife or kids. He gave all that ambition a very concrete, very motivating goal. Security, breaking that cycle. So moving into his actual playing career, getting into the professional setup was, well, kind of surprising, even to him.
Really? How so?
Well, he wasn't seen as this technically gifted prodigy initially. Clubs were apparently interested mainly because of his physical attributes, just raw speed and jumping ability.
Oh, okay. Pure athleticism first.
Exactly. But the big awakening, the real shift came later, when he went from player to manager at Mainz. And it happened in, like, the most chaotic way possible.
Yeah, tell us about that. The sources describe a pretty dramatic scene.
It was wild. They lost a game on Sunday, went into this crisis camp, and the manager literally asks the players, point blank, "Do you still trust me?"
And he was the one who had to deliver the news, even though he wasn't captain.
Yeah, the team chose him as the voice, and the answer was just no. Unequivocal.
Wow. Talk about pressure.
And then, boom, days later, he's the manager. Just like that. With the match coming up fast, he had to bring instant structure.
So what was the immediate plan? Just stabilize things.
Pure organization. Defensive stability first. He brought in this 4-4-2 ball-orientated defending idea he'd learned. Basically, forget individual brilliance for a moment. Rely on a strict, collective pressing structure.
Become like machines, I think was the phrase he used.
That's the one. Make it mechanical, coordinated, overnight.
And it worked, initially. But then came the near misses for promotion.
Yeah. Missing out by a single point, then later by just 1 goal difference. Brutal. But that's what shaped his whole philosophy on failure. He decided a defeat is only really a defeat if you don't learn anything from it. It shifted the focus from just the outcome to the input, the effort, the learning.
That's such a powerful mindset shift. That self-perception bit really stands out. I'm not here to get everything, I am here to give everything. Seeing himself as a constant trier, not necessarily a constant winner, it completely changes how you approach challenges, doesn't it? Risk, failure. It becomes about the process.
It does. And that focus on the process, on the pure project, ties directly into that huge early career decision he made, turning down Manchester United in 2013,
Right.
just after Ferguson left.
That's the one everyone talks about, turning down arguably the biggest job in world football at the time. Was that smart or just romantic?
He felt it was absolutely necessary
Yeah.
because the project, as it was presented to him, just didn't feel right for him.
What was wrong with it?
United's pitch seemed to be focused on celebrity, on star power. We get all the players we want. Talking about bringing in huge names like Pogba or Ronaldo eventually.
Okay. The Galacticos model.
Exactly. And he sensed it was becoming more about assembling stars, less about building this cohesive cultural identity he thrives on. He actually said, quite bluntly, it wasn't about the football. It was not at all.
So he needed that pure football project.
Yes, something built on collective spirit, shared effort, that culture piece. Not just buying expensive parts and hoping they fit. He knew, instinctively probably, that he couldn't build his kind of culture in that environment.
And that idea, focusing on the individual within the project, leads us perfectly into his core ideas on bespoke leadership. This is probably one of the most, counterintuitive things in the sources, especially when you compare it to the business world's obsession with rigid consistency.
Totally counterintuitive, because the cornerstone of his method was essentially treating players differently.
Right. How did that work in practice?
Kind of split it. 50% the same, the non-negotiables, punctuality, work ethic, tactics, everyone buys in. But the other 50%, that was purely based on the individual, their needs, their background, where they were in their career.
Because you can't expect everyone to tick the same way, as he put it.
Exactly. And the examples he gives really highlight that. You can't manage an 18-year-old Trent Alexander-Arnold who basically needed daily mentoring, almost education, from someone like James Milner. You can't manage him the same way you manage Milner himself, the 33-year-old veteran.
Different needs entirely.
Completely. Or, taking it further, think about cultural context. He makes this distinction between managing, say, a player from Munich, where maybe everything was fine growing up, versus a player from Argentina who grew up without a window. Their life experiences, their psychological drivers, they're just fundamentally different.
Okay, but here's the big challenge, surely. How do you manage people differently without creating resentment? How do you stop players who aren't getting that specific special treatment from feeling like they're less important?
That's where the deep empathy and the constant asking comes in. It's about building such profound trust that players feel safe sharing their context.
So it's not guesswork.
No, not at all. He said if a player trains badly, the absolute worst thing a leader can do is jump to conclusions. Assume laziness, assume they were out drinking. No, pull them aside privately and just ask, what's going on? Because often there are huge things happening at home. Grief, family illness, relationship problems, things that are directly impacting performance. You manage the person, understand the root cause, not just the symptom you see on the training pitch.
Which totally reframes the idea of feedback, doesn't it?
Completely. It stops being about the leader venting their frustration in the moment, getting it off their chest.
Yeah.
Instead, it's about delivering what that specific player needs to hear right then to help them navigate their situation. That takes huge emotional discipline from the leader, by the way, not reacting emotionally yourself.
For sure. And he had some pretty firm but interesting ways of handling public mistakes too, especially with social media.
Oh yeah, there's that great example. A player posts something dumb at 3 a.m., quickly deletes it, probably hoping nobody noticed.
Right. Standard procedure might be a quiet fine, maybe dropped for a game.
But he used it differently, as a collective lesson. The real punishment wasn't the fine. It was making the player stand up in front of the entire dressing room and explain why you did that.
Wow. Public accountability.
Total transparency about the mistake, the thinking behind it, the potential consequences for the team's image. He said that moment ensured nobody ever did it again. It wasn't just punishing one guy. It was reinforcing a group value, respect, for the badge, for the collective. A bespoke correction that served the whole culture.
And you really saw that philosophy cement itself during his time at Anfield. When he first arrived at Liverpool, he apparently liked the look of the core group. He saw it as a proper engine room.
Players like Henderson, Milner, Lallana.
Exactly. Smart players, he felt, who genuinely wanted to work hard. They weren't afraid of effort.
Which fits perfectly with his style. So he came in and immediately focused on organization and demanding that maximum effort. Pretty much. That's where that whole heavy metal band football idea comes from, isn't it? Maximum intensity, relentless pressing, gegenpressing, always moving, always working, demanding every ounce of effort, every single minute. It requires incredible buy-in, physically and mentally.
Yeah, no passengers allowed.
None. And we definitely need to touch on the spending narrative here, because it's a big point in the sources. You see those net spend charts all the time.
Right, showing he consistently spent less than the big rivals during his main tenure.
And his take was basically, spending wasn't his main worry. His job, first and foremost, was to squeeze every last drop of potential out of the players he already had, improving them, organizing them, motivating them.
Which speaks to a longer-term view, maybe, because while rivals were maybe focused on the next big signing, he was overseeing other things, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He oversaw the building of new stands at Anfield, a completely new world-class training ground, things that benefit the club structurally for decades. It's a key lesson, I think, for any leader. Success isn't just about the immediate results, the quarterly figures or the trophies. It's also about investing in the foundations, the infrastructure, that outlasts your own time there.
And that sense of togetherness, that culture, it was tested in profound ways, wasn't it? The sources mention a really tragic event, the loss involving Diogo Jota.
Yeah, that was clearly a massive shock. Jota wasn't just a squad player. He was described as a family member.
A very special young man, loved by everyone, who'd really excelled beyond what many expected. It sounds like a devastating personal blow to the whole group.
Absolutely. And the ripple effects were huge. That human cost, that collective grief, actually forced the club to completely change their plans for the next transfer window.
Really, it drove business decisions.
Directly. It shows how these deeply emotional human events can completely reshape logical, data-driven plans. He basically said replacing Jota, what he brought to the dynamic, was impossible. They had to think about the human element first, how to support the group before even considering transfers.
So when he talks about what makes a team truly special, it comes down to that togetherness, that feeling that this is special.
That's the core of it. The bonds become so tight that the team will walk through fire for each other. That's the manager's ultimate job. Create the environment where those bonds can grow that strong.
And how do you build that foundation? Where does it start?
It starts with something really basic.
Right.
Respect. Universal respect. He makes this brilliant point. If you don't show respect to the gardener or the kitchen staff or the kit man, eventually, that lack of respect will bleed into how you treat your teammates on the pitch.
It's like a downstream symptom, as he put it, a sign of decay.
Exactly. Watching how people treat everyone in the organization, from top to bottom, like Ferguson apparently knowing everyone's name, that's how you gauge the real health of the culture. That fundamental respect is the soil where high performance actually grows.
So let's bring this all together. What does this mean for you listening now, trying to take these insights from the pitch, from the dressing room, into your own professional world?
Well, I think the core lesson is incredibly clear. Sustained elite success. It isn't just about the X's and O's, the strategy, the tactics. Those are vital, obviously.
Of course.
But it's equally, maybe even more so, about the psychology, the human connection. It's about creating a reason, a why, that makes someone want to give their absolute maximum, not just scrape by with the minimum.
That guiding principle he mentioned about not just focusing on your own well-being.
Yeah, that profound sense of shared duty, constantly stressing that we shouldn't just think about what's good for me. The real belief has to be in working properly together for the collective.
He talked about loving that challenge, didn't he? Trying to figure out how to let them shine, how to give each person the right bespoke treatment they needed.
He understood that a leader's job isn't just to say what they want to say, especially in anger or frustration. It's to provide what the other person needs to succeed in their context.
Okay, so that brings us to a final thought, a challenge for you listening.
Yeah, if you've maybe spent your career focused on being that consistent manager, treating everyone the same, because that feels fair on the surface, we'd ask you to reflect on this manager's approach.
What is the single most important action you need to take, maybe this week, to shift from being consistently rigid to being truly bespoke?
How will you actively show someone important on your team that you actually see them, their unique background, their context, their window, or lack of it, as you put it?
Not just their job title, not just their latest performance review score. That really seems to be the core challenge of this kind of elite leadership, seeing the whole human being, not just the function they perform.